I should have listened when my roommate told me not to stay alone in that house so close to the holidays. At the time, it felt like harmless advice, the kind people give just to sound responsible, but the quiet that settled in after he left changed everything. The place wasn't big, but once the other bedrooms went dark, it felt hollow, like the walls were farther apart than they used to be. I stayed because I needed the money. Extra shifts, extra hours, and the promise that I'd leave the morning of Christmas Eve. That was the plan I kept repeating to myself whenever the silence got too loud. To make it feel less empty, I bought a real tree from a lot off the highway. It barely fit in the living room, but the smell helped. For a few hours, it almost felt like a home again. The problem was the stand. Ours was cracked, useless, and the tree leaned like it was about to give up. I didn't have the money for a new one, so I searched online and found a listing that felt too convenient. Cheap, local, available immediately. I ignored the warning in my head because it felt embarrassing to admit I was scared of picking something up from a stranger. The address was in a neighborhood that looked normal enough, but the closer I got, the darker it felt. Decorations stopped. Lights thinned out. The house I pulled up to was the only one without a single Christmas light glowing. When he opened the door, I felt it instantly. That wrongness you can't explain. He didn't smile. He didn't step outside. He just stared at me like I was late. When he told me the stand was in the basement and that I had to come get it myself, something in me locked up. I made an excuse, then another, until he finally disappeared inside and came back dragging it to the door. I drove home shaking, telling myself I was overreacting. That night, as I adjusted the stand, something rattled inside one of the legs. I peeled back a strip of tape and found a small device blinking faintly in my palm. I didn't need to think long to know why it was there. I destroyed it, flushed it, and sat awake until sunrise with every light on. In the morning, I convinced myself I was safe, until I looked out the kitchen window and saw a single set of footprints in the snow, pressed deep and close to the glass, like someone had been standing there, watching. They didn't come back the way they came. They walked around the house, slow and deliberate. The police shrugged it off. No evidence. Just another scared college kid, alone for the holidays. I installed cameras that same day. Nothing happened for days. I started to relax. That was my second mistake. The night I finally left the house to meet a friend, I came back to the front door hanging open, the frame splintered like it had been kicked in with purpose. The cameras showed him inside, waiting, not stealing, searching, listening, whispering my name into an empty room like he expected me to answer. He didn't take anything until the end, almost as if it was an afterthought. The police told me later that the house he used wasn't his. He'd been squatting there, using it to lure people. They never found him. I moved out the next day, left town, and never bought anything secondhand again. But every December, when the nights get quiet and the houses start to empty, I still feel like someone is standing just outside the glass, waiting for me to forget again. I learned early on that night security isn't about action. It's about waiting. Long hours, empty hallways, and the sound of your own footsteps echoing back at you like someone else is following a few steps behind. The mall I worked at was dying, half-lit, and mostly abandoned after closing. On the night before Christmas Eve, I was alone, watching live feeds that weren't recorded because the owners didn't want to pay for storage. When I saw someone sitting in the Santa chair on the monitor, I assumed it was a prank. Teenagers hiding out, looking for trouble. I grabbed my flashlight and headed down there, annoyed more than afraid. By the time I reached the display, the chair was empty, still warm. The kind of warmth you don't feel unless someone was there seconds ago. I searched the area and found a service door propped open, cold air pouring in. I locked it and logged the incident like I was told. No police, no fuss, just another strange night. I went home exhausted and tried to forget about it. When I came back later that afternoon to pick up my paycheck, the parking lot was full of cruisers. They'd found a body under the Santa display, dead since before midnight. That was the moment everything fell apart. Because I knew what I saw. Someone had been sitting in that chair at 2 in the morning. Someone alive. Someone watching the camera. There was no footage. No proof. Just my statement and a timeline that didn't make sense. The detectives told me the door I thought he escaped through had no tracks in the snow. That meant he never left. He stayed inside with me. While I walked the halls. While I checked the bathrooms. While I sat alone in the office, staring at monitors. I quit the next day. I still don't know where he was hiding or how close he got. I just know that when people say malls are empty at night, they're wrong. They're only empty if you're lucky. The notification came through at 11:14, and I remember the exact time because it's burned into me now. A person at the front door. My husband had already left for his shift, and the house was quiet except for the dog breathing at my feet. When the camera feed loaded, I saw someone standing there, dressed like a caroler, face half hidden, eyes locked on the lens. They didn't move. They didn't ring the bell. They just stood there like they were waiting for something to happen. I tried to scare them off through the speaker. Nothing. While I was calling the police, I heard tapping at the back of the house. Slow, deliberate. When I switched cameras, there were more of them. Masks. Smiles stretched too wide. One of them tested the door handle like he already knew it would be locked. Then he pressed his face to the glass and called my name. That was when I knew it wasn't random. They knew where I worked. They knew I was alone. They kicked the door, hard enough to shake the frame. I hid in the bathroom, listening to glass shatter and cold air flood the house. I heard my dog charge them, the sound of bodies colliding, someone screaming in pain. Sirens cut through the noise just in time. 2 of them were caught. The others ran. The man who led them was someone I'd seen every day at work, standing too close, watching when he thought I wasn't looking. The police told me he'd planned it for weeks, that he wanted me to open the door, wanted me to recognize him. We moved out months later, but it didn't help. I still checked the locks twice. I still watched the cameras. And every Christmas Eve, when the notifications light up my phone, I hold my breath and wait to see who's standing there this time.